Our first speaker today is Milena Vakil. Milena will be introduced by her brothers Amir and Samir and her cousin Amelia.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Can y'all hear me? I'm Amir, as y'all know, Milena's brother, of course. Let's get this party started, yeah? So, Milena gave me a list of things I was not allowed to talk about during this introduction, as well as some things to mention so that her speech has like flow or something, I don't know. So let's look over this list. All right. Tell a story of when I was a good sister. Don't talk about yourself too much. Give Sam an easy one-liner. Don't embarrass me. And don't say anything that will expose me to the family. Garbage. So, you remember that time when Milena said she was going to Kaylee's? Well, actually, I almost got you there, yeah? I'm just kidding. As dumb as this list was, I guess today's about you, so I'll do my best to follow some of it. A time when you were a good sister. You got anything?
No.
Me neither. All right, don't talk about myself too much. He can do that.
Amir is the best.
Thanks, buddy. That also checks off his easy one line to say. Moving on, don't embarrass you. You do a pretty good job at doing that yourself. And I already tried exposing you, so great. We're done here. That's all, yeah? Just kidding. In reality, Milena has been my overall #1 supporter, mentor, and my absolute best friend. Whether it was the first time I got broken up with and I sat there bawling for God knows how long, or whether it was our mandatory brother-sister hangout days, she's been there for me whenever, wherever, however. She's the smartest person I know, and I've literally learned everything from her. I give props to a lot of people in my life when it comes to making me the person I am, and I know this is cliche, but if it wasn't for Milena, I wouldn't be an ounce of the man I am today. She practically raised me single-handedly. No offense to y'all. But this is also the reason why I'm going to be the most heartbroken when she moves to college. Anytime I ever needed advice, somebody to listen to my problems, or even just a hug, all I had to do was walk down the hall. And she was there for every little moment in my life, and now she'd just be gone. But I know you will excel at Miami as much as you do here. And I'm sorry for the sad bit. But to conclude this speech, I'm going to say one thing. Milena is my best friend, companion, mother, father, and brother all in one. But most importantly, to me, she is the greatest sister in the whole wide world. I love you, twin. Ready? Y'all ready? Without further ado, we present to you our older sister, Milena Vakil.
God. Okay. Dog. It's kind of in the way, I think. All right, that was a really tough act to follow.
You're welcome.
Growing up, adults always love to ask, what was your rose and thorn of the day when attempting to make conversation with kids? But why? Why would adults make us focus on the negative aspects of our day? I've come to learn that acknowledging the lows creates more emphasis on the highs. Being able to realize that life comes with negative and positive aspects allows you to value the positive aspects that much more. For example, my brother stood up here and told you about some of my highlights as a sister, but I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about my lowlights. Let me start by introducing my siblings and the fact that Miss Perez and I are not actually sisters. Despite the fact that we look so alike, we actually have no blood relation to each other at all. In reality, I'm the oldest of 3, and my 2 brothers look less like me than Miss Perez does. My middle brother, Amir, is a sophomore, and my youngest brother, Samir, is a 1st grader. Don't ask me about the age gap or the almost identical names. Talk to my mom, 1st row, seat 2. Being the oldest is all fun and games, but also comes with a load of responsibility. My siblings look up to me. I'm supposed to be the role model and someone they can turn to. And I would say I usually do a pretty good job at this, but there are definitely a few times where I didn't get the Best Sister award. July 2021, Me, Amir, and Samir swimming around the pool of our resort in Turkey. My parents decided to take the afternoon to enjoy the spa and trusted Amir and I with Sam. Sam, who's freshly 4 and can't swim, is loving the water with the protection of his arm floaties. After playing fetch with the sinking pool toys for a few hours, we were ready to hit the all-inclusive buffet. As a good big sister, I dried Sam off, took off his arm floaties, and made him hold his toys. But as we were walking away, Sam drops a toy and it rolls into the pool. Amir and I exchange annoyed expressions because this means that one of us would have to get wet again and jump into the pool to retrieve it. Being a well-trained fetcher, Sam decides that he can grab it and jumps at the pool with a smile on his face saying, "I'll get it." Let's backtrack. We played in the pool for a few hours, then we're ready to go to the buffet. I dried Sam off, took off his arm floaties, and made him hold his toys. Sam drops his toy into the pool, then jumps in to get it. Notice anything off? Amir and I sure didn't. As we exchanged another look, this one relieved we don't have to jump back in. Until we simultaneously realized I took off his arm floaties. Amir, being the one not holding all the bags, jumps in to rescue Sam, who's already figured out how to kick his legs in order to save himself from drowning. Amir scoops Sam up over his head, where proud Sam looks at us holding his toy saying, "I got it." So I almost had my baby brother drown, or taught him how to swim, depends on how you look at it. But what are my lowlights with Amir? I could stand up here and tell you about the time 6-year-old Amir opened the moving car door and almost fell out of the car in one of the busiest streets in Louisville. Or I could go into how 8-year-old Amir thought it'd be fun to play hide and seek with my mom and I at Walmart, and we had to announce for him over the loud intercom system after running around screaming his name for 30 minutes. Or I could tell you about every time I covered for him trying to hang out with a girl he knew he wasn't allowed to see. Sorry, Mom. But those seem like Amir's stories to tell. In reality, I haven't had too many memorable bad sister moments with Amir. In fact, besides the occasional bickering at dinner or the controversies about every girl he's dated, we usually get along pretty well. Amir is the one I can always turn to when I need the comfort of a best friend. I can always count on him to cheer me up, do something spontaneous, maybe stupid, and I can surely rely on him to scratch my brand new car. Anyways, Amir and I also tell each other everything. So Mom, anytime you asked what was up with Amir or where he was when his location was off and I said I don't know, I fibbed. But that's all about the highs and lows of life. My mom's low of not knowing where my brother is, and my high of being a good sister. Amir and Sam are awesome brothers, but I always think I'm the oldest of 4 because of my cousin Amelia, who's grown up with us. Amelia is 7 years younger than me, and there was a point in my life where Amelia and her mom lived with us. They no longer live with us now, but you wouldn't know that with how often they're at my house. Our close bond has allowed Amelia to fill the role of a little sister. For the most part, I've done a pretty good job at being her older sister too. But there was one time that came to mind when writing the speech that could have ended a lot worse than it did. Flashback to when Amelia was about 2 years old. I was so excited having a girl in the house, I took care of her any chance I got. One night, we were getting home from dinner, and Amelia was securely strapped in her car seat. I've always been the one to get her out of the back row, so I did my normal duties this night. The problem was, it was a very rainy evening, and when the car pulled in, it brought in lots of water into our concrete garage. As I got Amelia out of the car, I thought it'd be best to speedwalk into the house in order to avoid getting too wet from the rain. However, the slippery concrete got the best of me, and I started to fall, with baby Amelia in my hands. Luckily, my big sister's reflexes kicked in quickly enough for me to be able to twist my arm back and save her head from hitting the concrete ground. Luckily for her, at least. I, on the other hand, walked out of the accident with a twisted elbow and bruises on my side. And since then, I have never carried a baby in the rain. When I think about the turkey trip, I may remember the part where I almost drowned baby Sam, but he only remembers the unlimited chicken nuggets at the buffet that followed. I may argue with Amir about who's washing the dishes every night, but that doesn't take away from the laughter from our ice cream runs right after. And my elbow may pop every time I move my arm too far back, but at least Amelia made it past the ripe age of 2. All these stories go to show that there are highs and lows in everything. Life comes with it all. It's an endless journey of roses and thorns. So if you take anything from this, remember that you may think something's awful in the moment, but there's a highlight in everything. Freshmen, you may hate LFW because of the whiteboard workouts, but in a month you'll never have a PE class again, and you'll miss the rock climbing days or the dance competitions. Sophomores, I'm sure there are days when your parents take you to school and you wish you could skip out on the morning lecture, but soon you'll have your license and you'll miss the extra time you get to spend with them. I sure do. Juniors, I'm sure the thought of being a rising senior scares you right now, but the endless traditions and memories overlook the college applications and the senioritis. And seniors, as tiring as class feels right now, and as much as you have to fight to get out of bed to come to school every day, enjoy the last bits of it, because there are only 43 days until a long-awaited graduation, where we realize that high school wasn't so bad after all. And to my siblings, I know it might suck thinking about how you won't have my awesome personality around every day soon, but that just makes the time we do have together that much more special. Thank you.
Our second speaker today is Charlie Fitzgerald. Charlie will be introduced by his grandfather, the head Fred.
Thank you, Charlie, for inviting me to introduce you for your senior speech. I'm truly honored. My wife, Leslie, had a sweatshirt and a plaque that said, "Grandchildren are the reward you get for not killing your kids when they were teenagers." Charlie certainly has turned out to be one of the very best rewards. Our home has Charlie on speed dial for technical support on iWatches, iPads, Macs, cable TV, and all sorts of streaming issues. I'm sure most of you are aware of the many activities, awards, leadership positions Charlie has been involved with here at Collegiate. Student government, National Honor Society, theater, athletics, etc. But I want to mention several other activities he's been involved with outside of school. He is a member of the Louisville Youth Cabinet, an advisory board to the mayor and Metro Council made up of youth ages 16 to 24 who are invested in preventing youth violence. It also provides the members opportunities to be engaged in their communities and gain insight on issues impacting the city of Louisville. Charlie has also worked with Educational Justice for the past 4 years. This organization is a nonprofit that seeks to end educational inequity by pairing 5th to 8th grade students with high-achieving high school peers for long-term one-on-one tutoring and mentoring with a goal of improving academic performance and social development. I'd like to share a brief story that exemplifies Charlie's creativity and problem-solving skills. Last summer, his mother received a hysterical call from the neighbor across the street. It seems that her dog got his head stuck in a wrought iron fence. Annie flew out the door, followed closely by the always interested Charlie. He sized up the situation and immediately went back into the house and emerged with a metal clamp. Think of a two-sided clamp on a rod, ideal, and you can ratchet it at the bottom, ideal for holding two things together while they're being glued, or to hold something to a table for painting or whatever. So he placed the clamp on one of the rods or poles that had the dog's head stuck in, and one on the adjacent one, and gradually tightened the clamp, pulling the bars together. He did it on the other side as well, releasing the dog's head. Tears of joy soon replaced the tears of anguish. As a person reaches my age, you become very aware of your own mortality. Not sure how many more years I have left, but I hope it's a lot. I have many things to look forward to, and high among them is being witness to some of the great things this young man will accomplish with his life. Yes, I am prejudiced, but I think Charlie is a rock star. Charlie Fitzgerald, it's now time for your senior speech.
Alrighty. I like the middle seat. Yep, it's true. Now, I'm not talking about what you might think I might be talking about. I can already hear some friends out there groaning because I refuse to sit on the edge of the restaurant table, or because I always demand the center seat of an Uber. I will admit in front of you now that that is one of my more annoying traits, and I'm sorry to all that have been affected by this vexatious preference of mine. But no, that's not what I'm going to talk to you about today, because who needs another self-deprecating speech? So yes, fine, I selfishly require the middle seat around my friends, but that's not the middle seat I'm talking about. No, I'm talking about the middle seat of an airplane row. Yes, the one without the nice window view and without the easy bathroom access. We are talking about the ones between two people, two strangers, the ones that airplanes probably sell last. And yes, I prefer it. Why, you may ask? Well, I like the middle seat because there are two people to talk to, two people to discover, to unlock. But I haven't always been this way. I used to hate randos. I used to enjoy making nasty stories about strangers in the mall. You know what I mean? Just sit in a public place and people watch. Look at the faces and bodies and clothing and expressions and think, what's their story? Who is that tall, skinny man wearing a fedora and a button-down shirt? What's he doing sitting on that bench? He's probably single, desperately searching for a lover. He's got no family, no friends, dead-end job, living paycheck to paycheck. So he's come here to find a mate. He will inevitably fail and go home and cry and spend the rest of the night on his couch eating TV, or watching TV and eating chips. Okay, fine, no, I was never that harsh, but still, I did used to negatively judge people that I didn't know. Something inside me just dismissed them as weird or not worthy or something. Now, this immediate judgment is not fair, I know that, but I couldn't help myself, I guess. My perspective about strangers changed a while back when I met Dottie. Now, to do this story justice, I kind of have to go all the way to the beginning, so bear with me. I go through a lot of phases. I, like many of us, had the dreadful slime phase. I had a phase where I made wooden pens for a while. Right now I'm in my record phase. But a while back I was in my film photography phase. All I wanted was some 35mm Kodak Gold and a nice analog camera. I made a post on Nextdoor, the neighborhood app, seeking such a camera. And to my avail, a woman named Dottie responded offering her Minolta point and shoot. She told me it would be a few weeks though because she was getting her hip replaced. Old people and their hips. So 1 week later on a Saturday afternoon, I got a call from Dottie where, along with her address, she proceeded to give me lengthy instructions on how to get to her house. Now, I could have just plugged the address into my phone, but it somehow felt important to heed her very specific directions. Besides, head-Fred's spoken route always beats Google Maps. So as Dottie provided a raft of steps that would lead to her house, I wrote down the holy instructions with great precision. The next day, after successfully passing the zoo and turning right after the Waffle House, I arrived at the foot of the big red door she had described. There I stood, smiling at a note taped to the handle. Its message, "Come in, Charlie." I stepped into a cramped living room. The wall-to-wall carpeting, intensely patterned wallpaper, and china trinkets framed an old lady perched in her faded armchair. Now, I'll be honest, I hadn't really expected much of an interaction. I was more thinking it'd be, a simple transaction. I'd give her the money, she'd give me the camera. Boy, was I wrong. Next thing I knew, I was sitting across from her as she recounted the camera's history. And sitting there, I felt like I was in that one Titanic scene when all the ship people are listening as Rose recounts her time on the ship. Dottie's experiences had me at the edge of my seat. I mean, lush Italian expeditions, cornfield sunsets, and romantic road trips had me wide-eyed and wanting more. I couldn't resist asking dozens of questions, relishing in the feeling that I was traveling back in time with her. As her thrilling stories continued, allusions to her son's death and how her husband used to be made me realize that Dottie was alone and perhaps pretty lonely. We talked for probably an hour, and when I finally left, I almost forgot to take the camera. In the time since my arrival, I had formed an unexpected connection with this elderly woman and had half forgotten the purpose of my visit. When Dottie refused to let me pay for the camera, I suggested I instead return the next week to help her with things around the house. And before I knew it, Sundays with Dottie became my ritual. We did all sorts of stuff. I set up her voicemail, sorted her email. I read aloud her letters when she couldn't decipher the tiny print. I think one time I might have paid her bills, hoping I did that right. And I can still hear her cry of joy when we sold her first thing on Facebook Marketplace. But far and away, my favorite part of the Sunday mornings was going through boxes with her. The dusty cardboard cubes lined the walls and filled the garage. Every time we went through the stuff, I got to hear more pieces of Dottie's life. Box by box, question by question, and story by story, Dottie offered her history and allowed me to see the world through her eyes. Later on that year, Dottie left a voicemail saying that she had fallen. Not that bad, but she'd be in the hospital for a couple of days. In the message, she said that she just wanted me to know. I head to the hospital with flowers and her favorite candy, dots, of course. And I sat across from her like normal, only this time we were in this too bright, sterile room of the Audubon Hospital. Still though, like usual, we just talked. She told me about the fall and then asked me about my day at school. A few months after that, I returned home from a couple weeks at camp, and I was eager to see Dottie. I called her cell phone, but got voicemail. I called her home phone, voicemail. Weird. For days after that, every call and email went unanswered. I went by her house one day, but no one was home. So a week later, I taped a note to the handle of the big red door. Dottie's neighbor, Janet, called me with the news. It seemed sadly fitting that a note on Dottie's door signaled the end of our friendship, just as it had the beginning. She never had a funeral, no obituary, nothing. She was there and then she was gone. I wish more people could have known her. She had such a kind and gentle presence. Talking to her would often relieve my stress. Someone once told me that the most important skill in life is storytelling, and let me tell you, Dottie had mastered that skill. I'm so lucky that I got to know her, and I'm eternally grateful that she let me, some random camera-seeking high schooler, into her life. Now, you might hear that story and think it's a story about me and putting myself out there and all the good that I got from it. And yeah, that's a fair interpretation. Honestly, that's probably what Brown thought when reading my personal statement. And maybe I'm glad that's what they thought. But I'm here today to tell you that that story is about something different. Because that story is not about me at all. It's a story about Dottie. It's true, I was the one to put myself out there, but it was Dottie that made the relationship. She's the one that's special. So do I still negatively judge people from time to time? Yeah, but I'm better. It's true that not everyone is a Dottie, but they could be. I don't know. So I returned to that random guy in the mall with a fedora. I think he probably has something to say. Dottie made me realize that in a world with billions of people, everyone has something to say, something to offer. So now I try to talk to as many people as possible. Not just because I'm an extrovert and I have an easy time talking to people and I like talking to people, but because I want to listen to them. I want to hear what they have to offer. So I try to put myself in a position where I can make a connection. And since then, talking to strangers has only done me good. If I hadn't sat next to some random woman at the JCC while waiting to play a pickleball game with Mr. Earth, I might not have found someone to rant about Broadway musicals with. If I hadn't commented on my barista's music taste, I might not have ever listened to all the artists she introduced me to. If I hadn't gone up to some random girl on the back of the line at my camp, I might not have found a best friend that I still talk to on the phone every single day. And if I hadn't started a conversation with the man on my left on my flight to Boston, I might not have realized that I was sitting next to Reese's grandpa. And I might not have gotten to hear the stories about Trevor and Meredith and Reese. And he might not have come to see me in Mamma Mia the next week. Anyway, you get the point. The wonderful people and wisdom and stories and tips and tricks only come from putting yourself out there, from hearing the stranger out. So, choose the middle seat in an airplane so you have two opportunities to meet someone, anyone that might offer something valuable. Maybe you'll find a Dottie too. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause for our amazing speeches.